N.U.B.Y.
Any of the thoughts and opinions shared on this podcast belong solely to the members of the cast. This is not a reflection of the school districts and companies who employ us. These are just our thoughts and views and aren't intended for anything further than the entertainment and information for our viewers and listeners. Greetings and welcome to episode 7 of the N.U.B.Y World Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jason Love, and I'm here with my favorite crew. I got Mr. Dennis Griffin here with me and Jeanette Russell. Dr. Russell, how you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good. Thanks for asking.
All right, Mr. Griffin, how about you?
Feeling great. You know, it's that final week before break, so a lot of positive energy here.
All right, now the last time you saw us, we had our first special guest. We had Miss Lewis. Shout out to Miss Lewis again. So since the last time we recorded, how has everybody been, man? How's everybody week been?
My week has been going pretty good. Just getting ready for the holidays, finishing up a few things, and then I'll be pretty much ready to go for next week.
Okay, Griffin, how about you?
And I had an exciting opportunity this past week where I was the acting superintendent of the district. And for everybody out there, I have aspirations to be a superintendent one day. So it was a really great experience. I learned a lot. I'm looking forward to continuing my educational journey that way.
Man, that's what's up, man. And I didn't even get to share that opportunity with him, man. My better half was down for the count last week, but she's doing much better. See, that was kind of how my week was. Just I was being in her rock, so to say, for a little bit. But now she bounced back. What was you about? You was about to say something, Doc?
No, I wasn't about to say anything. I was just listening.
So now we are currently recording this during the final week of school before winter break. So this is the mid stretch, I should say, of the school year. For a lot of people, we always look at winter break as kind of like that halfway point, even though mathematically it might not quite be that, but this is kind of like how it is going into it. Let's talk about what it felt like during the time we were in the classrooms during this time, or as outside of the classroom, whether we were coaching or as currently as administrators in the building. What's that feeling like during this week?
I mean, for me, I'm going to start off with, as a teacher, that feeling was definitely a little tiring and just ready to go and get to that finish line. But as a coach, you are definitely cheering teachers on, saying that they can make it. And it's not time to start counting down the days to that extent, but it is time to just keep going because you're almost there.
And then I would say, like, kind of currently in my admin role, the behavior, it's like kids can feel it too. The students can feel like, hey, we going into a break. Like, for example, today, it was some people, we got certain expectations in the building, but today some people was trying to test some of those expectations, some of our kids. And you could tell, like, they just ready for that break. They know it's coming up, but we had to do some reminders and a couple parent calls today. What about you, Griff?
Man, it depends on when you look at it. I remember being like a first year, second year teacher. I was like, it's movie time. Let me play on the holiday
No.
movie. I'm sitting in the room.
Yeah.
So I remember that, like, the first, I'm waiting for the school assembly. So I'm like, oh, that's another hour gone. But then as I'm matured as an educator, I was like, wait a minute. The more I change my expectations of the week, the more the kids' behaviors are going to shift. So I really can't blame them. I really got to look more at myself. So it depends on when you catch me in my career that's going to dictate what my thoughts were during that period of time.
I mean, I think I found out early on, you have to be on your game with your plans for that week. Because if you were not on your game for that week and your plans were just very lax and laid back and you didn't have activities and instructional lessons planned, then you're going to have some behavioral problems for sure. For sure.
See, and that's a smooth transition, Doc, because I was going to ask next, like, what are some of the ways we kind of prepared our classrooms for going into the break? And you kind of hit it with the keeping those same expectations with behavior in place. I remember when I was in the classroom as a teacher, it was like, we did, like, one year we made like these packets, like these academic packets, like with worksheets and stuff for them to do over the break. And you kind of felt like, man, I know they're not going to do this, but it was kind of like to avoid some learning loss, even though Christmas, or I won't call it Christmas break, winter break wasn't even like super long, but I remember like doing some of those kind of things, but it felt like more the heavy lifting was when you got back from the break. How about you, Griff?
One of the things I remember is that going into break, we often think every kid is gonna have the same experiences that we have with the holidays. And one thing to
Mm-hmm.
remember, like every kid, their routine is gonna be broken during this time. Sometimes you are that safe place, sometimes you are that connect for the kids. So you gotta keep that in mind. Like for everybody, winter break isn't a great thing. For some kids, it's
Right.
like, wow, how am I going to adjust without seeing Mr. Love, without seeing Dr. Russell for the next 2 weeks? And then as an educator, once you understand that, a certain level of empathy comes within you and you start reflecting on the kids that way.
I know
Yeah.
I definitely used to miss my kids during the winter break. I mean, I needed that break away, but I would always like, okay, I wonder what so and so is doing over the break. And I would always make sure they had some sense of family and community before they went away for break by planning different activities and making sure they just felt special that they were going to come back to a safe place and a safe classroom.
One of the crazy things with me is when it would be Christmas break, like a day or two before we would come back, so like New Year's Day or something like that, I always would be like, man, I forgot all these kids' names. I al I always have the feeling like, man, I don't know none of these kids' names. Even though once you got back, you just remember them all, like over the break. Like Doc said, she was thinking about it. Like I always found myself thinking and be like, I don't even know who these little
Yeah,
kids.
I didn't know. I would forget staff members' names, but not the kids. I would forget the staff.
I do
Man,
not have that experience at all. Like I remember
dude,
everybody's name during that
I don't
time
know
period.
why. It was like that little week and a half, 2 weeks. I just feel like, man, I don't know none of these children.
That's because you completely shut down during that
Yeah,
break. You just shut your brain off, and like when you came back, you're like, okay, now I have to be on it. And who's who?
yeah.
Oh, it came back to you.
Man, it came back. Like once you walk in the building, it's like it's there. It's like right back. Now, does anybody recall any like fun or memorable uh activities that you did during that final week? For me, when I was at Milwaukee Academy of Science, they did a secret Santa for like some of the kids that was like less fortunate. And they went around and got the kids to make these Christmas lists. And those, like all the kids made them, but it was select kids that it was like these lists were going to donors that was really gonna purchase stuff for those kids. And that feeling was so cool. I think we did it like that final day before they went on break, where we went and like hand selected certain kids and put them out of their class, and we didn't tell them what it was for. And we brought them into the office, and it was all laid out with all these gifts that was all wrapped, and it would have a little tag on it with their name, and it would be one or two of the items that they had on their list, and it would just come from all these donors. Dude, that feeling was so cool to see, because like Griffin said, some of these kids weren't going to have a break that was full of gifts and all of these things. So to see the look on their faces, because we would have them open it up right there on the spot. And I know that bus ride might have been a little tricky getting home, depending on what you got, because you this little second grader holding this big old toy on the bus. But it was cool to see them opening that up. Does anybody else have any memories of fun things or activities going into the break?
I can't remember where I got this activity from or if I got it off Pinterest. I just can't remember. I know we didn't have like TikTok or anything or Instagram too much. It wasn't too heavy back then.
Mm-hmm.
But every single year, I would have my kids build gingerbread houses. So I would have them save the milk cartons from lunch.
Yeah.
And they would save their milk cartons. We would wash out the milk cartons and then we would let them dry overnight. So then when they came the next day, I had a surprise for them. I stayed at the dollar store, and this was when things were actually 99 cents or a dollar. And I
Mm-hmm.
would buy packages of graham crackers to build the house, vanilla frosting to hold the house together. And then they would also use the vanilla frosting to stick on the pieces of candy. And we would like watch a movie while we were doing this, or I would just integrate it into the curriculum. I mean, it was associated to whatever we were doing for that week, story or something in math. And we would build houses, and some of the kids wouldn't get through building the houses because they would eat it up already.
Yeah.
Like they would already, but that's what kids do. So it was just fun to watch them build a house, and some of them would just eat the house in the whole process, and they would just take them home. So it was always a cute idea that the kids looked forward to.
Yeah, Doc, you was like an architect, because I remember one of them years you switched with me and I got to go in with your class while I was watching the movie, and you went and did the activity with my class. And when I came back, they were so excited that you went in there and did that, because if you know me, I wasn't doing that. We wouldn't. We was like Griffin said, we was finding us a little Christmas movie to throw on or something. And Doc had extra supplies and everything, so she hooked my kids up. I remember one year when we was at Universal, you stepped into my room and you did that same activity. My kids loved it. What about you, Griffin?
A couple things come to mind. I remember, like you said, the movies. I remember like we had like the school assemblies where your classroom had to perform. And I'm like, well, I don't know exactly what we're supposed to perform. But then I'll go back like a few years ago. Mr. Love, you brought this to the school. We had a student staff basketball game to exit the day. And our plan around that was there's so much built up energy on those last couple of days. We wanted to generate it in such a positive light where we created this school assembly. We acknowledged certain students that were doing well, but like everybody was a part of something before they left. That really reinforced like the community aspect. So I'll say that's one of the like moments that stuck with me for like how we celebrated going off into the break. And it beats movies because we're all together.
Hey,
So
crazy.
you playing basketball this year?
I don't know about this year. I might be retired now.
We getting out.
Man, I might have retired from the staff student basketball games, man. It might be. The crazy thing, Dennis, is we going to have an episode where we talk about the one staff student basketball game that led to the controversy, and us having to have another staff student.
What, the kids beat you all?
Oh, no.
This was like some parent involvement. It was like, it was. We're gonna talk about it. That's gonna be a topic. You got to bring that back up and talk about the year that we had to run it back again. That was crazy. Now we to my favorite parts of the show. Really, these are my favorite parts. Doc, take it to the block.
Well, on the block for this episode, I'm just going to discuss reflection because we have to think about reflecting during this time. I mean, I know it's winter break, and we'll come to that at the end of the show. You might just be a little bit tired, but there comes a point in time where you really do need to reflect because it definitely promotes self-awareness, it promotes self-growth, and it also promotes a growth mindset. So once you start reflecting, even before the break or before you return from the break, I mean, it's definitely going to set you up for success going into the new year with your classroom. So think about reflecting, reflect in a journal, use your phone as a reflection tool. So I'm just going to leave with making sure you're reflecting as an educator during this time.
Okay. And now for another favorite part of the show, here to make you think. Mr. Griffin, what you got for us today? What we thinking about?
And I'm going to piggyback off of Doc with the reflection piece, and I'm going to have you guys help me in a second. But for today, greatness without failure is the ego's mediocrity. And, you know, we've been on this journey together where we're starting this podcast and we're talking. And along the way, we've learned a lot, but we've also made a lot of mistakes along the way, too. And I think it's only fair that we share with certain individuals that watch us, that talk to us. Because, like, we all go out in public and people are like, hey, we saw the episode. What are some of the mistakes that we've made that we've learned? Because like we're on the journey and our goal is to be great. I'm just gonna be very honest with everyone. We're not doing this just to be average. But at the same time, in order to like become great, we have to acknowledge the mistakes that we made. So what are mistakes that you've learned or what have you learned from this journey so far?
What I lead off, what I learned is trying to be consistent in the senses, trying to, as we're doing this podcast, trying to make it so it's reoccurring themes. It's a format to everything. You're trying to stick to that format. So kind of not so that the audience will just know exactly what to expect, but I do want it to be points in the show where people's like, this is my one part that's going to come up, or I like this part right here. So trying to keep a format in place, but also another thing is like being mindful of like pace and make sure that the show is moving along at a proper pace.
I would have to say that doing a podcast is completely different than what I actually do in my normal day-to-day life, especially in the professional world, because I'm always talking, I'm always presenting, I'm always sharing different ideas about instructional practices, even in my current role, as well as working as a professor. And it's completely different. Just being mindful of your audience and trying to make sure that it's a topic where I can engage the audience. So the audience is completely different on both sides. So I'm still trying to navigate this new space.
I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say, hey, everybody, this is hard work. Like, this is almost a job in itself, the prep time that it takes, because we just don't come together and just say, oh, this is what we're going to talk about, and then like start recording. Like, we all have different personalities. We all have different ways that we like to prepare, and we all want to give our best effort. And then in conjunction with that, just like, and this is where I'm gonna give Mr. Love like a huge kudos, huge shout out here. This would be my shout out for the segment. You need someone that's going to push you into a space where you're uncomfortable. Love has been telling us for years, like, hey, we need to like put some content out there. We had these great ideas. And I know for me, he's working with me for 5 years. 5 years, he's like, hey, I need you to put Here to Make You Think out there. Like, and I just wouldn't do it because I'm like, man, nobody gonna listen to me. But yeah, he's like, dude, I listen to you every day. The staff listen to you. But to actually like be able to put it out to other people, but have the support of people around you to say, hey, we're gonna go through this journey together. That's a lot, but this is a full-time job, posting, reposting, trying to get people to like what you're saying, subscribe to what you're doing, to be relevant to like the lives of others, because the reality is you just don't know until you know. But we feel like we got something special going.
Yep, definitely. What's some of the things, now that we can reflect on some of the things we learned, what are we looking forward to? And I'd say more guests. I want to get more educators on here, create this. We got this nice platform. I think it's what we did with Miss Lewis and showcased her. I think we should do more of. Also, I'm looking forward to the time where we can all get together and be in person, because I think we do a great show remotely. But I would like to have us together once in a while, because we all know each other. We got that chemistry. More guests, and then us connecting and trying to make it happen in person.
I agree with you, Mr. Love. Definitely in person, because I think the vibe will be just a little different in person, but I feel good with the remote setting. But I'm more so an in-person type of, I guess, more in person, I guess. Let me just leave it at that. But I'm also looking forward to continuing this journey with you two, because no matter what, every time someone says that they heard the podcast, that someone knows like how the great work that you two are doing in Brown Deer and just in the community. So it always stems from, you're on that podcast with Dennis Griffin and Jason Love. I'm like, yeah, I'm on that podcast with them, and they just talk about the great leadership that you all are doing right now.
Oh man.
And Doc, that goes both ways. Cause I've had many people say to me, like, Dr. Russell, and like the world is just so small. I'm gonna agree with both of you, and I'm gonna say like that opportunity to like not just be in person, but like the way I envision this is like somewhere out there, and I'm gonna like pictures right now. There's a school district that is looking for some energy on how do we shift the literacy scores, how do we build culture, how do we enhance leadership, and they're gonna reach out to us, and they're gonna have us, and we're gonna be in person, and we're going to like share a in-person keynote, and then we'll have breakout sessions for exactly what you need to differentiate for the masses. I'm just going to put it out there for everybody right now. But that's some of the things like I really look forward to, because the reality is, doing this platform, we're still teachers. We're just sharing our knowledge of other people in a different platform.
That's what's up. Now, before we start to wrap things up, we got to end with some best practices. We've been talking about reflection, and we've been reflecting a lot. So best practices today will be some reflection ideas for some educators as they go into the break. Griffin, what do you got for some reflection ideas for educators?
One of the first things I'm going to tell everybody from an instructional standpoint, teach until the end of the week. Like, do not change your methodology to the point where you can't have that springboard when you come back, because every day is important. I remember my first couple of years as a principal, talk about how I shifted. Teachers used to write like countdowns on the board. If I went in your classroom and I saw a countdown, I'd erase it, because when you had a countdown, that means more kids was coming to my office. Teach, teach, teach. Every second count. You never know when that light bulb is going to go off for that kid, so we can't waste a moment.
And I would follow that up with, try to maintain your culture. So as you're going into the break, take note of what's been working and what hasn't worked, and find some time either over the break or maybe that first day back. If you're in a district where when you come back that first day, you don't have students, on that day, start thinking about, hey, how can I make some changes to impact the culture in a positive way based on how that first half of the school year kind of went. And just put some new practices in place and make sure to emphasize the things that have already worked at the same time.
I ditto what you said, Dennis, and same thing, J Love. I completely agree with the both of you. but I'm going to take a step away from the instructional piece of it and also the cultural aspect of it and just say it's okay to take a break and just let your mind relax. Take a brain break during that time, but just know you have to be ready when it's time to go back. But it's okay to take that break.
Yep, definitely. Hey, I was tired, boss.
Yes.
Man, and now with that said, hey, we getting ready for this vessel. Do we got any shout outs that we want to give or anything going on over the break?
Over the break, I mean, just like I said, take some time with friends and family.
Family and friends.
Yep. Family and friends. Taking some family photos over the break. So we're going to see how that is going. Got some family members coming in town. As always, I'm going to try to get on some Xbox, have some me time. And I want to see Gladiator Part 2. At the time of us recording this, I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to see Gladiator Part 2 over the break. That's like my goal over the break, to make sure I see Gladiator.
I'm a huge Gladiator 1 fan, so I absolutely need to see that as well. I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, I'm a 1 fan, but I've heard that it wasn't as great as Part 1. So
I know. I love Part 1 too.
I got to see for myself.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
The truth of the matter is, sequels usually do not live up to the original anyway, when you really think about it. But I have faith in Denzel.
Mm-hmm. So definitely. Matter of fact, if you saw it already and you watching this, leave that in the comments. Tell me how Gladiator 2 is. I'm gonna try not to just take your word for it. Like I said, I want to see it myself, but throw that in the comments. Also throw some ideas for the break. But if you're an educator or a non-educator, throw some ideas that people can get into over the break. As always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this, leave feedback. Shout out where they can find you at, Doc.
You can find me at thereadingblockmke.com. New content coming soon. If you haven't gotten your copy of Shampoo Day, make sure you do so. It's right behind me as well.
A Griffin. Tell them what you got going on, man. This
man, because of this podcast and the support of the two of you and my family and friends, I actually started to do a lot more with Here to Make You Think. Please look me up. Please subscribe to the channel. You'll see a lot more content coming in the very near future. And like I always say, I'm not here to change you. I'm just here to make you think.
Man, that's what's up. Also, check out newbieworld.net. Go on there, check out some information, some content, buy some merchandise to support the group. There's also going to be some merch coming with the shield that you see on the N.U.B.Y World Academy logo. So it's going to be some of that on there very soon, probably over the break. So make sure you get on there and support. And with that being said, if you like the video, we out of here for the holiday break. We'll be back at the top of the new year. See you next time.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Say thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. N.U.B.Y.net. N.U.B.Y.